He's done it again. Donald Trump has targeted India yet again. Just 24 hours ago, he had threatened new tariffs on India, and now he's delivered.
President Trump is imposing an additional 25% tariff on India.
What is problematic here is, first of all, the incredible unfairness of this particular imposition, because there are other countries that buy oil from Russia and they haven't been penalized.
Donald Trump just doubled tariffs on Indian goods from 25% to a punishing 50%. Why? Because India continues to buy the discounted Russian oil. And Mr. Trump wants to make that costly. So these are the highest US tariffs on any Asian trading partner. So if this really happens, it will hit the Indian economy hard. Why? Because India's GDP largely depends on exports. About 20% of our GDP depends on Indian exports. And US is by far the biggest export destination for India. In May 2025 alone, India exported $8.83 billion worth of goods to the USA. So with these new heightened tariffs, these Indian goods will become 30 to 40% more expensive to their American buyers. We are talking about billions of dollars at risk, potentially about $4 to $5 billion in trade losses. And this is not just numbers. Many prominent industries in India will be impacted, from the textile mills in Gujarat to IT-enabled manufacturing in Bengaluru to diamond polishing and jewelry in Surat and Mumbai. So when your biggest customer slams the door on your face, the question is not why. The question is what now? So here's where things take an unexpected turn. In the middle of this tariff storm with Washington, New Delhi is trying to mend its relationship with China. Not only India is talking with China about border skirmishes and troop pullbacks, but also now India is trying to redesign the trade ties, investments and other growth options with China. After years of tension, like you remember the Galwan Valley clashes, or we can say the deadly Galwan Valley clashes of the 2020, the two sides now are warming ties. In recent weeks, senior Indian officials have traveled to China for the first time in 5 years. And this includes our Foreign Minister, Mr. S. Jaishankar, our Defense Minister, Mr. Rajnath Singh, and even Ajit Doval sir visited China this year. So high-level meetings have resumed and direct communication channels are back between India and China. Even Chinese senior officials, including the Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs, visited our Independence Day celebrations on 15th of August. And in a symbolic move, India has announced that it will restart direct flights to China, possibly in early September. So if you follow India and China relations, you know that these things are big things that are happening. But let's be clear, the ice hasn't fully melted. The border dispute between India and China is still unresolved. The mistrust still runs deep. So one question that comes to my mind is that can China replace the USA when it comes to the losses that India can incur due to higher tariffs from Mr. Trump? So to answer that, we first need to understand what exactly India risks losing when the US market becomes unstable. So the USA buys some of the very lucrative exports from India, including textiles, pharmaceuticals, rice, motor vehicle parts, gems and jewelries. So here's the big question: if US is out of the picture, can China absorb that demand? The numbers tell us not really. See, India's trade with China is massive. In 2024-25, total bilateral trade hit $128 billion and almost 8% increase from the previous year. But the problem is that India is a net importer when it comes to the trade with China. In 2024-25, for example, India imported around $113 billion worth of goods from China, while the exports were a mere $14 billion, causing a net deficit of $99.2 billion. And what are we selling them actually? Mostly raw materials from iron ore, marine products, and basic chemicals. And this is not like the USA, where India is selling or exporting higher valued goods from textiles, pharmaceuticals, rice, motor vehicles, parts, gems, and jewelries. In fact, China's market is far less welcoming to the Indian goods up till now. Non-tariff barriers, strict technical standards, and opaque regulations. These are constant roadblocks in the Chinese markets. Even if India wants to sell to China, it is not that simple. China has a lot of hidden rules that make it hard for foreign products to enter their markets. Things like complicated paperwork, testing requirements, or sudden changes in the quality rules. Yes, China might import more raw materials from India to feed its vast manufacturing sector. But that's not the same as buying Indian-made medicines, designer textiles, or precision auto parts at US scale prices as the US does. So according to me, China cannot fully replace USA as a market for the India's higher valued goods, which India exports to the USA. At best, it can be a partial buffer, but not the safety net that New Delhi might be hoping for. See, there can be another perspective where the coming together of two powerful Asian blocs, India and China, can pressurize the USA. But that is not from the point of view of commercial or the economic point of view. That is another thing. If we purely look at from the economic point of view, China cannot fully replace the US market. India will have to look out for more options. So let's be clear that I am not saying that India should shut the door on China, but we also have to be realistic. India and China's trade priorities are very different. For India right now, the priority is pretty simple: recover from the US tariff shock, find new buyers for our higher valued export goods, basically diversify our trade so that no single country like the US is doing can squeeze us overnight. Now for China, the goals are different. For China's, the goals are keep selling large amounts of export goods to India and make sure that India becomes even more tied into Chinese supply chains. That's why even if India increases its exports to China, it cannot fully replace what we are losing in the US market. China's market is still hard to break into with the playing field tilted towards its own domestic companies. So what's the smarter move? I'll say go beyond China, and that too aggressively. We should target countries that import a large share of their GDP and already buy the products India is good at making. For example, we can target the European Union, which imports 35% of their GDP. They have a strong demand for electronics, machinery, apparel, and pharma. We can target Canada and the United Kingdom. Canada imports 26% of their GDP. UK has high consumer demand and diverse supply chains. Germany, Netherlands, and France, great for engineering goods, pharmaceuticals, and tech exports. We should also target niche, high-valued markets. These are like Switzerland for jewelries, Netherlands for agri and minerals, and Germany for industrial equipment. So the bottom line is that India can and should keep talking to China. But the fastest way to bounce back from the US tariff hit is to diversify. Push exports into multiple high-demand, import-heavy markets before the next big door closes. Thanks. Please like and subscribe if you found something valuable in this video. Thank you.